Sup nerds, I'm Tom.
I'm Wes.
And we're taking a look at Wave 1 for Exit by Cosmos. Even though they don't really call it Wave 1, these are the first three that ever came out. Well, we're going to call them Wave 1.
So Exit is another series of games in the new kind of subgenre of gaming that is escape rooms.
More like the new fad, but sure.
Yeah, a bunch of different companies are putting them out.
Fad is really like something that comes and goes. We haven't seen it go yet, so that's premature calling it a fad. We'll see.
You said fad. Like our reviews of the Unlocked games and any other escape room type games will do, we're going to try to avoid any spoilers if we can. We're not going to talk about any specifics in the game. We're going to talk more about the general feeling we got playing them, our thoughts on the way that this company handled the concept of the game, and then recommend whether or not you should buy them. There'll be a purchase link either way, though.
Yeah, so even if we're like, you don't buy them, they're still like, we're just giving some money right here. And actually, part of the reason why we're being super spoiler-free is that if you watched our review, we already did reviews for Unlock Wave 1 and 2, which again weren't called Wave 1 and 2. That's more of like an X-Wing thing, but we got to put our personal stamp on it somehow. In those, we had the cards that came in the game kind of splayed out. Here, we're not doing that because probably the largest difference between Exit and Unlock specifically is that these games are a real one-time use because they're actually destructive. You will cut things, fold things, write on things. So even if we were to include some of the material out here, it's possible that even our little like scribbles and cuts and whatever could be considered to be spoilery.
And I have seen some people who've talked about it on Instagram before, and they're like, oh, actually, we can reuse ours because we make photocopies and hand sketches of all the cards that we need to cut up. Like, don't do that.
These games are like $13 each. It is not like there's a big benefit with Unlock in that it's built in that it's just a deck of cards that that are non-destructive and you utilize an app so you can hand them out. But to go through that effort to make these reusable, so to speak, it definitely wouldn't even be worth it.
If you need to, you can. Like if that's a $13 is stress for you and you need to resell it for $5 to get your money back, like sure, but in my opinion, and Tom's too, I know we've talked about it before, like part of the game, part of the gameplay and the feel of the game is like going in and cutting up the card and that like we've had risks before where I'm like, I'm pretty sure I need to cut this out. Like 80% sure. And I'm like, if I cut it out and I'm not supposed to cut it out, like we tape it. I had to like tape cards back together before that I cut too much. So that's like half of the fun of the game is taking that risk and like, all right, I'm gonna color in this card. I'm gonna color it in.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing that really anybody is going to talk about when comparing these with the other games that are again this kind of fad. Is there's Unlock. There is the escape room ones that Think Fun does, that we actually have a review of their first one of that. There is the escape room by Spin Games, I think. That's like the box with the like the little plastic thing where you put the keys in there.
Walmart, right?
Yeah, that's at Walmart. They have a couple others of that. And then there's a few other smaller companies that have been doing games that have been doing, single, not series, but single escape room games. And we should probably eventually, we're going to do a video where we compare like all of the ones that we've played. But I actually think Unlock is the only one that I've known of so far, if I'm incorrect, you can go ahead and correct me in the comments, that has the ability to replay it. Not by the same people, but we can play it and then put it back and hand it to somebody else. So while there's a bit of a fault for us in that because Unlock has been the one that we've played the most, this isn't different. That's not a new thing, is that these are destructive. Because the Think Fun one was destructive. I'm pretty certain the Spin Master game one is destructive. Like, it's not a new thing. So the question isn't, oh, well, since you're going to have to destroy these, are these less valuable? The question is, how good are the puzzles? Really?
I think that's fair. And honestly, like, that was a negative to me, like, before I played these. Like, oh, man, you have to cut them up and you can't replay them. Not that I'm going to replay them, but, like, the option, that was a big thing to unlock, is you should get these because you can pass them off to a friend and different groups can play them. But honestly, the destructive was, like, it did add some fun for me. Like, having that risk and, like, it opened up. We'll talk about that in a second. You had asked a question first before we got to that.
No, I was just saying that our Unlocked copies have been handed out a whole lot, so we utilized that a whole bunch. So when we sat down to play these, we had to really be like, okay, everybody has the time for us to go through all this. Who's going to be here? Like Unlock, it could have been like, we started, like, there was even one where we started playing it and then you went and left.
Yeah.
Right? And then, but we could have handed that back to you and you played it with a group of other people and still, like, you knew the first 2 puzzles, but that's it.
Yeah.
Right?
And that is, you said you ran into an issue playing this type of game. Do not want to say that.
No. It's not so much, that's not a spoiler, the idea is that one of these was really hard. I think these 2 are both pretty easy. This is the easiest. This was a little bit slightly harder, and this was the hardest one. It was probably my fault for, I guess, picking this one, I guess. But, I was with my buddy and his wife and some of their friends, and we were kind of drinking a little bit too much. So I guess we weren't super duper focused, but, like, we kept getting stumped a lot more in this than I ever did in any of these. So, and actually the copy that we have doesn't have the difficulty meter on it. If you notice, this one doesn't have a difficulty, these ones do. So I didn't know that this was the hardest one when I pulled it out. We got like 50% of the way through, or maybe 60% of the way through, and then, nobody was having a good time. We were all starting to get a little drunk, and I was like, you know what, screw it, just, look here. I looked at the answer cards, just went through and go, all right, look guys, we got out, yay. And I couldn't redo this, though. If that happened in Unlock, I could just shove the cards back, put it together, and play it with somebody else.
You have an advantage the first couple steps, and then
have an advantage through the puzzles that I've played before, but then continue on. In this, though, like, we're gonna have to buy a new copy if I'm gonna do, and I probably would do that because I actually opened this up and looked at like some of the messed up components, and I was like, I don't even remember how this worked. Like, somebody else probably finished that puzzle and I didn't, and that was a long rambly thing from Tom, but
I will say with these escape room games, and honestly probably Unlock too, that they're fun to play. It's a fun puzzle, but it's definitely not like a chill. We're just gonna sit back, relax, have some snacks, some beers, play a game. Like, at least when I play it, I'm like, all right, guys, no, stand up, we're doing this.
And I think a lot of that comes from Unlock, because we had a timer going down, right? And here you just have like a little chart that says how long did it take you to do it, how many clues did you need, and how many people did you have, right? So there's less pressure here. We create that pressure artificially because we're used to that. But this one has a lot less of that, like, you get an answer wrong, you lose a certain number of minutes. And I think the Spin Master one works the same kind of way as a countdown. That's that little plastic thing you get in the box. So these ones, while escape rooms in general aren't that way, these ones probably allow you to do that the best because in theory there's no clock ticking down.
Yeah.
That is required. You can make your own clock and tick it down, but
So going into the exit games, I did have a little bit of a prejudice already just because I liked the Unlock games so much, and I feel like I just kind of decided in my head, Unlock is like the way to go, just don't worry about the other ones, like I just don't need them because I have Unlock. And so going into this, I was a little like, we'll see it, it'll be fine, that way we can review it. And I was really surprised at how much, like, it's like you never miss what you never knew. Like, in Unlock, it's like, you don't destruct it, you just figuring out the puzzle and the number sequence and the cards and you go forward, that's great, that's all you need. And then I got into like, I can cut this up. Part of the puzzle is figuring out that, like, you have to cut this in half and flip it over and then put it back together. Like, the way, just all the possibilities and options that opened up in the ability to cut cards up and mark things in and, take a bunch of different things and Sharpie in things. Just, again, it opened up so many possibilities that made the puzzles in this a lot more variable, a lot more crazy, that I feel like in other escape room games that a lot of the puzzles is, here's the puzzle, solve it. And this, it's, okay, here are all the pieces to the puzzle. We have to figure out how these work together so we can see what the puzzle even is to solve it. Mm-hmm. And I think that was just a really cool thing that Cosmos did with these exit games. So obviously we've compared Exit to Unlock a whole bunch, which I feel like you guys might be waiting for, like, do they pick one? Like, should we get Exit or should we get Unlock? And I'm not going to give you that answer because
I will.
Okay, Tom's going to give you an answer. I'll go ahead. Okay. I'll say mine second.
I think you should do what we did. You should get Unlock first and then get these.
That's like the cheap man answer. Like, which one should I get? Which one should I get? It's both of them. Just get this one first.
No, but like, if you, first of all, I think the answer is you should get both because neither one is so much better than the other that you would usurp the other one, right? Like, if you have this game, you don't need that game. No, they're all because they're all just one and done stories. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like get the Pharaoh's Tomb without getting this. Whatever, you can get all 3 of these. You can get all 3 of these and all 6 unlocks. There's more of these out right now. But Unlock is a lot cleaner and easier to get at first, and then you move into this, and some of those things we wouldn't have thought of, right? Playing these, Unlock helps us out with that.
That's fair.
I mean,
So for me, I feel like I've thought about this a lot. Like,
While I was
if I
talking?
had no, but before this, like after I played it, I was like thinking about what I'm gonna say in a review and thinking like if I had to pick one, which would I pick? And I instinctually go to Unlock still. Like that's still, I think that the fact that it's clean and it's seamless and it feels less chunky, like the Exit definitely has like, all right, we're doing this puzzle. Now we're doing this puzzle. And like, it's not that they're all laid out in front of you, but it feels like if you laid everything out together at the end, you can have, all right, there's this puzzle, and then you moved on to this puzzle, and sometimes you get like, every puzzle gives you a piece to the last puzzle, but for the most part, it's very focused, whereas Unlock, I feel like it's a lot harder to pick out individually, oh, well, first we did this, and then we did that. Like, you can kind of figure out, there's some things where you can say, okay, well, we have like 3 different puzzles, which one are we going to do right now? And you can kind of pick where you want to go and go back later. So I feel like, instinctually, I want to say Unlock, but I also think that if I want to figure out like which one I don't want to say enjoyed more, but the overall experience, I think, was a little bit more fun with Exit, because there's a little...
You enjoyed it more, just say it.
Yeah. I think that it was a better time playing Exit, where Unlock still, like, fleed better. So I agree with Tom. I definitely recommend that you play all of them, because it's such a cool genre of board games. And because, again, they're so cheap, you don't need to pick, like, oh, well, you've got this legacy game that's $80 and this legacy game that's $70, and like which one of those do I pick? And it's going to be 12 games back to back, so I really don't have time for 2 of them. Like, no, you can get like all of these games the price of one big box game. Instead of going and pre-ordering Legion, it's out now. Instead of going and buying Legion, you can just get all of these Exit games, or in probably some of the Unlock games too if you find them on sale. So just play them all, because you should be playing more games. So either way, we're going to have a purchase link to all 3 of these games in the Exit line in the description box down below, as well as a link to our Unlock review, because you should watch that one too. Both of them.
Yeah. And actually, if you're wondering which one of these you should purchase first, Abandoned Cabin is the easiest, Secret Lab is the second easiest. This one was really hard. I think we probably already said that, but if not, there you go. And hey, while you're down there purchasing a bunch of copies of these, you should definitely subscribe to our channel so you will never be bored.
Like the one card that's like, go in your fridge, find an apple.
What do you mean look in my wall? How did that happen?